Here, oh boy, and there we go. Oh, buddy! Adam LZ gets up on the wall. Holy cow.
Last weekend I crashed my car, and now we're gonna fix it. This might be the most ridiculous challenge we've ever taken on. We have about 1 week until this car, or should I say a new chassis with all the parts from this car, need to leave to go to Formula Drift Seattle. We got a lot of work to do, but it's gonna be a lot of fun, and it's gonna make for some great videos for you guys to enjoy. I wanted to take a second in this video to let you guys know how unbelievably thankful I am for your support on that shirt pre-order. Now, when I launched it, it was in hopes of covering some of the costs associated with reshelling this car into another one and getting to Seattle to compete. But I can say with a giant smile on my face that because of your guys' overwhelming support, I feel comfortable in saying that I will be at the last 3 rounds of the Formula Drift season, which means I will have competed in the entire season, and hopefully I can get up there in points and maybe even get 2nd or 3rd in the championship. Now, I've never really done a full breakdown on what my Formula Drift program costs, but to give you an idea, average round ranges between 28 to 35 grand, which sounds ridiculous, but most of those costs actually come from flights, accommodation, labor, the cost to get everything to the track, tires, and other random stuff. And believe it or not, that doesn't even include or account for any sort of crash damage. Now, I'm incredibly thankful to have some amazing partners that have supported my goal this year of doing 2 Formula Drift rounds and 6 rounds of Drift Masters, which is even more expensive, being overseas and flight and cost, of course. But here's the thing. When you budget to do 2 rounds of Formula Drift, and then you go and you want to do 6 more rounds at 30 grand a pop, you're talking almost $200,000 more that you weren't expecting to spend. So obviously I'm doing pretty well for myself. I have an amazing compound, I have amazing cars, but as you can imagine, with a staff of over 30 people, upkeep on facility, building race cars, overhead is through the roof. Pretty much every dollar that I make, I pour back into the builds, content, improving this place. I mean, you guys see it in the videos. So this year I've been trying really hard to stay on top of budgeting and making financially responsible decisions, but I don't know if it was a combination of being pleasantly surprised in how competitive I was in this E36 and the ridiculous amount of enthusiasm from you guys seeing me compete in this thing pushed me to compete in more than just 2 rounds of FD. Obviously the 3rd was replacement for missing Spain. And then I did New Jersey because I won last year and you guys hyped me up to go. And then the same thing kind of happened for St. Louis again. But that crash really was the nail in the coffin. I was genuinely upset because I saw no way of being able to push forward with the FD season. And all of this that I'm saying is just a really elaborate way of just letting you guys know how much just buying one of those t-shirts meant to me. They're not available anymore. It was just a 48-hour pre-order and it's over. I'm not trying to sell you on getting one if you didn't already, but I know so many of you did, and I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart and let you know that when we are on that podium, it's because of you guys and you're there with us in our hearts. I love you guys. All right, so quick check-in with the guys. Johan, what are you working on here? No stock transcell on this thing?
No, so the blue car had a pretty manged up tunnel. Throughout the time that we worked on that car, we dealt with like the transmission not wanting to, don't have enough space to come out. On the Euro car, I worked around that, made the tunnel bigger, made a big opening right where the carbon cover is, and then now we have enough space to that. With this car, I'm gonna take it a step further because it's not too complicated and just make a top piece for the tunnel. So that way the trans has enough room on the top, because right now it's really tight on the blue car and on the Euro car, and then at the same time we'll have even more space to remove the transmission and not worry about caching back here. So
Sick.
The OEM car, you remove it, the motor tilts a little bit, but it still is like caching up back here. So now it's like, we used to do it in 10 minutes, now we can do it in 5.
Hell yeah. Hopefully we don't have to do it though.
No, I mean, just to inspect the tranny and clutch.
And then this is a new sight for me. Fiberglass Poppy has got a torch in his hand. I just was looking at some of these welds. I was like, Johan, was that you? Dude, this is like incredible, man. Would you rather be doing this stuff or fiberglass?
I can do both.
Which do you enjoy more though?
It depends, but big on the AC. I'd rather do this.
Yeah. So obviously now between two cars, we know the points in which the chassis like to crack, flex, and need strengthening. So all these little stitch welds will hopefully keep all this stuff from separating. So we don't have any plates in this yet, but since this was an M3 chassis, this is like already plated more than the other cars, right?
Right. The M3 chassis do come with suffering reinforcement plates, but we're gonna add more. So one of the things we learned in Europe from DBM was to cover this hole here, kind of to reinforce this area on this car, because that's where the OEM breather is for the gas tank. And as you can see on this side, doesn't have it. So we have it in question because on the blue car, we still are using an OEM gas tank. And so we still use that OEM breather. The original plans for this car was to throw in a fuel cell, just like the Euro car. But now, since the timeline that we have, we are gonna throw the stock tank in, so we might not have enough time to do the fuel cell. This is pretty tight in here once the tank is in, so there's no other way to reroute the hose.
Got it. So we're gonna basically leave that for now.
Right. So,
But we could always reinforce it later.
Right.
I wanted to thank you guys and remind you yet again that your energy and all your support around us is what has us chugging along and shooting for the goal of making it to Seattle. If you can, leave a comment, drop a like on the video. It makes a huge difference, especially if you're enjoying this. Now I have a hard time when we're building race cars because I always want to get involved, but the guys are so talented compared to me. I feel like usually I'm just going to end up in us resulting in a worse product. So I stay out and I go tinker with my little street cars. However, on this car, I'm excited because I'm actually going to handle not only making, but also bead rolling the rear firewall. It's something that I did on the Datsun and I was really proud of how nice it came out. So I want to get to have a little bit of my own taste and style in the rear section of this. My other car, we still have the factory speaker deck here, so that seals off the cabin. But in this one, it was cut out. So I'm just gonna make a nice flat sheet, but try to make it a little bit spicy in the process. Since we're gonna be covering this, first step, of course, is gonna be shaving down these little posts. So I'm gonna grab a Sawzall and hack them away. I started trimming a piece of cardboard so I could get it underneath and kind of laid in place. That way I could trace this shape, which will eventually be the shape that I use to push in and overlay on top. But this will be my starting point. Might take a couple revisions before I go and take it over to aluminum, but I'll cut this out and then see how it fits. I'm almost at my favorite point of the project, and that's bead rolling. So I got this thing all cut out of aluminum, got it test fitted up, and then I started to sketch out a pattern to do. I used thick tape to kind of act as my buffer to get consistent gaps everywhere, but this top edge I actually had to freehand to try to get this arc nice and looking right. And then Johan brought to my attention that we have some cool aluminum LZMFG logos. So once I get this thing all bead rolled, he's gonna tack it in there for me. So once this thing's either painted or powder coated, it'll look amazing. I'm stoked. I love sheet metal work, and I'm happy to have a little bit of my own flair on this thing. Let's see how the bead rolling comes out. I don't know if you guys could tell in the time lapse, but I messed up pretty bad. I got myself into a pinch where I couldn't rotate the piece, and then I wound up doing it backwards. So I had to do double passes on both these ends, which is why they're like raised slit on both sides. I wanted it to look like this, which is just like one raise and then flat, but instead I got like the little mountain. Overall, not bad. Has the exact look that I wanted. A couple little dents that I could probably smooth out, but this is gonna look pretty badass when it's in the car. You know what I just realized? This whole time, I was doing this because of you. You gotta have to spin the camera on so people know you're not Mike.
Hi, I'm not Mike.
Why did you cut this out?
Because it has this wavy stuff like it's all even a factory. And it has a bunch of holes that smoke comes through.
It made me get to do some bead rolling. I'm pretty happy with it, so. This should lay flat once I start riveting it down. I think it's just because I bead rolled it. It's a little, look at that. That thing's beautiful. Oh, you're about to weld it on?
Yeah.
Sick. You need help holding it? Here, I can pick it.
That's hot.
I know, I just you. That would have sucked. we do a lot of crashing, so the crash structure is pretty important. Now, you guys have taken a few different theories with building crash structures. What's the latest and greatest that's going on this one right here?
I mean, this one is pretty much identical to the Euro car. So we make this jig so that we can make multiple crash bars. So the crash structure is this. So this is the part that we don't want to give. And then this part right here simulates the location where the crash bar will go, which then that's the part that you want to mangle, which clearly we found out in Finland. It got pretty mangled.
So will this get welded to the car or does this get bolted?
Right, so we cut out the back of the car. I cut the frame rails that come all the way out here. I plated them, and then this structure will get welded to the car, so then it will be permanent on the car. The blue car, we used thinner material that we already had here. Thinner material wasn't it, so we decided to go ahead and upgrade it to the same material thickness as the Euro car. Now we have one crash bar for 2 cars, and so it makes it easier to replicate and copy.
I like that. So you already have this jig from the Euro car?
Yeah, we made this one of the days we were down, and copied this on the car and then welded it. So now it's like you reverse it.
One of the benefits of running the same car in 2 different places.
Yep.
What have you been working on today?
Filling some holes,
Yeah?
you know, and cutting some.
You like doing that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in trouble
What?
filling holes.
Oh.
You get it?
What?
Right over
So
there.
what holes? So this on the bottom was bent, and we had to. It's welded from the bottom. So this was like bent all the way this way and separated. So this is all welded back up. So you have a frame rail again.
Uh-huh. And then these are plates, I imagine, to block off holes and things.
These 2 are for up here, and there's some.
Oh, I can see you're already shaving off all these. Man, we're going a little bit overkill on this thing.
The chassis might be coming out better than the blue car.
Yeah, I know, for real. It's like, it's gonna be the craziest like 3-day chassis fab. I still can't believe the trans tunnel is beautiful.
Yeah, so that was just like last second, waiting on Josh to finish the rear end. I didn't want to stop him from what he was doing, so this is what shifter comes out to. We use the same bracket that holds the boot and the hydro, so it works out perfect. And now we have a little more clearance for the transmission to, you know, come in and out.
This is crazy. So while we've been working on the chassis, Sean's been already starting stripping down the E36, as you can see. Taking apart's the easy part, if you will. The hard part is gonna be going through absolutely everything and inspecting to make sure nothing's bent, damaged, broken, fatigued. Little dumb stuff like, you know, a wastegate tube being bent is obvious, but you never know if that impact gets translated and winds up cracking something else. So it's gonna be a very careful and cautious process putting the car back together. And I'm pretty excited that Freddie's actually on board helping us go through the engine to make sure that all's kosher there. So he's gonna be looking through the engine, looking through wiring, while the guys focus on more of the chassis stuff. He might even open it up, like checking torque on the rod bolts and just other things since the motor is like halfway through the season. Walking through the chassis, I mean, we've kind of already showed you guys the damage, but you can kind of see now without an engine in here, just how mangled the frame rail got. So this hit basically transferred everything up into the firewall, and that's why you can kind of see it twisted, it ruptured here. This is all tweaked. Other than that though, this chassis isn't that bad for the abuse it's gone through. This was one of the clutch kickers crashes. It didn't affect the strut tower, but you can see this was a little bit tweaked and a little bit mangled here. I'd say one of the most exciting things for me on switching chassis from this thing is the fact that no longer will we have red shining through. One of the most annoying things ever, if you're ever planning to paint a car, do not start with a red car, because no matter what, you'll always see the red. The second you get a scratch, seeing red underneath, oh, drives me nuts. The thing that I'll miss the most of this car, this cage color is like probably one of my favorite things ever. So it's like this ghost blue pearl over like a Nardo gray. We're not gonna have time to do anything super fancy or crazy in terms of paint with that other car. So the whole chassis is just gonna be one color. There won't be like a blue and gray accent. Maybe we'll have time to paint the engine bay, but that's a favorite part about this car, and the carbon roof. So we do have another carbon roof coming. It's not gonna be here in time, so we're gonna end up going with a fiberglass roof that I got from Joel. The carbon roof, hopefully we'll get to use on another chassis. I think I've said it, but this chassis will likely be this year's chassis and then potentially become a backup if we build another car during the off season. So the carbon fiber roof will go on the other one. I'm trying to think other things. You know, you guys have seen all the cracks and issues with this thing, but I'm excited to see kind of the new rear structure and get to kind of compare and contrast cars. weight-wise, I think it's going to be a fair bit heavier. If you look at the structure on that other car, I believe there's 3 additional bars. So it has an X here and then another X in the main hoop. And the main reason why I didn't do it on this car was just weight. Those extra bars probably will add another 30 pounds. Maybe we're going to lose a little bit from the speaker deck. It'll add a little bit of strength, but I don't think it'll be anything like crazy noticeable. The cool thing is though, the way that the cage is being built, on that one, the cage actually does tie into the shock towers, which might be something I feel. But the car's a little heavier. It is what it is. Maybe we lose some weight in other areas. I went a little bit too deep on the first one and got a little wavy. So this one, I went a little bit softer with the bead rolling and I went a little bit more simple on the pattern. So it'll still give us some structure, but now we don't have that crazy wavy top edge like we did before. So you guys might hear us referring to cage kits in this video quite a bit. We kind of operate under the assumption that everyone knows what cage kits is because in the drift world, they've pretty much taken it by storm. So cage kits is essentially CAD design roll cage that's like literally Legos where the tubes all show up pre-notched. And if you're a pretty good welder, I mean, even if you're a decent welder, it is the easiest thing in the world. But not only do you have an easy job of welding, look at how ridiculously tight everything is. So in the past, when you would buy a cage online, it needed to be made to where if you weren't a great fabricator, you could still weld it and wouldn't run into any issues, which resulted in a lot of like big gaps and not tight fitment. But because all the design work is done so well with this stuff, not only is it easy to weld, but you get a ridiculously tight fitting cage and you know that it's FD spec. So in Formula Drift, there are certain regulations that cages need to meet, and instead of having to communicate to that to someone who's making you a complete custom cage, you get a beautifully CNC bent cage, you save money, you save time because it's way easier to weld, and lucky for you, we actually stock our own version on Drift HQ. So we were given the opportunity to work with cage kits and for specific chassis. That way you guys have less lead time and you can get an awesome cage. So we lucked out because we were actually going to put a cage kit in that other E36. It showed up, it wasn't good, and Joel just happened to have a car that has the exact same cage that we were gonna order anyway. So very cool and an awesome product that's been taking the market by storm.
Alright, so what we're running into right now is we're trying to figure out whether we're gonna mold this to the car or leave it on top of the remainder that we cut here. So we could panel bond it to this and then rivet it, and then the roof will technically be just about that. But it's gonna look bad. So if we wanna make it look better, we gotta basically trim out the rest of what is left here and then make it flush and then panel bond a line of it in here. And essentially just body work it and prime it and then paint it. So that's like a lot more work. So we're trying to make this happen like, what, a week and a half now or whatever's left. Yeah, so.
Crucial time.
Still got a little bit of work left. We still got to do the floor, the cage, paint the outside. There's still a lot of fab work left. So yeah, we're trying to make that happen right now.
It is incredible seeing everyone come together and it's been a lot of fun. There's still a lot left to go, but this weekend the car is going to get some paint laid onto it, and from there we can get into the fun part of assembly. But what's going to make this even more interesting is we are actually going to be over in Latvia for Drift Masters with Johan, Owen, and myself. So while we're away, the boys back home are going to be swapping everything over. and Sean's actually gonna be the one test driving it. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited to watch the video since I won't be here, and I hope you guys are too.
When you said